We're crowning our state players of the year in North Dakota, and now it's time to break down the best of the best in Class A. Hillsborough, Central Valley, and Langdon Edmore Munich made the championship game, and they have a combined 3 players among our top 5 nominees. Cardinals quarterback Jacob Delvo, Oak Grove's Ben Hogarth, what a year he had, Clayton Greenike from EEK, and Hillsborough Central Valley's championship tandem of Grant Skager and Jack Camroot. Let's start with Delvo, a rare 4-year starter who helped his team from a 1-7 record as a sophomore to a 9-2 record as a junior, and this year the standout quarterback had his team with a perfect record before losing to Hillsborough Central Valley 16-14 in that state championship. Delvo passed for over 2,000 yards, rushed for 500 more, and scored, listen to this, scored a combined 40 touchdowns. His instincts are incredible. He was able to escape so many sacks and throw on the run. He had an all-state receiver, and that guy, Anthony Economy, had unbelievable chemistry between those two. I'm going to miss watching number 7 play football for Langdon Edmore Munich. Boy, he could pass the ball. We go from the aerial attack to the ground and pound, or more like ground and drag. That's what Oak Grove's Ben Hogarth did to a number of defenders this season. One stat that I couldn't find is how many jerseys he went through after being stretched out by guys trying to tackle him. Hogarth rushed for 1,800 plus yards, 20 touchdowns. He was also a tackling machine with over 100 of those. It's hard to believe where the Grovers would have been this season without number 22. He accomplished those big numbers while playing in arguably the toughest region in the state. Speaking of tough running backs, Ellendale Edgley Columns Clayton Greenike finished his career with over 5,000 rushing yards and 65 touchdowns. It's a pretty darn good career, not to mention he won a state title last year on a record-setting performance. His numbers weren't quite as good this year, 1,600 yards and 19 touchdowns. Hard to believe that's a ho-hum year, but that's because he set the bar pretty high last year. Greenike was named Senior Athlete of the Year in Class A. Now to our state champ duo. The Burros relied on that rushing attack this season, and it's probably a good idea. Grant Skager made it look pretty easy, rushing for 2,300 yards and 30 touchdowns. He was a weekly addition to the Midco Sports Network top performer list. His shiftiness and speed were great, but I think it's his vision that was really critical too. He was great at finding that hole and then exploding through it. Just like plays like that when he'd break away from guys, he was quite the talent. Speaking of making holes up front though, senior lineman Jack Camroot was a big part of that. He was also an offensive coordinator's nightmare. Camroot collected 57 tackles, including 13.5 sacks. He had a couple against Delvo in the championship game. He might be one of the hardest workers in the state. Number 51, a beast up front for the boys in blue. With that said, my top player of the year is going to be Grant Skager. And this really is an award for that offensive line, too. The way the Burros ran the ball, wore every single team down that they faced. Skager was a workhorse all season. If I was going to give a runner-up, though, it would have to be Delvo. Both of those guys with outstanding seasons. Finally, let's chat about our top 9-man players. A couple of the bubble guys included Cavalier, 2-time All-State QB Austin Erlob, Napoleon Gackle Streeters Jameson Fettig and Nathan Weigel, Bartholomew Ogbu, the NDSU commit. All those guys were worthy, but I got my list down to a pretty good Final Four. Cannon Fagerlund from state runner-up Shiloh Christian, New Salem Glen Owens, Evan Henke, and Wyndmere Lidgerwood's Wyatt Harless and Luke Furch. With a special shout-out to lineman Charlie Moffitt for the Warbirds. Both Harless and Furch would argue he should be on here too. I'd probably argue that too. See, even I argue with myself, so don't feel bad if you're yelling at me at home. Anyway, Cannon Fagerlund was outstanding in his junior season, rushing for 1,800 yards and 25 touchdowns, averaging 8 yards per carry too. Fagerlund is just a bully on the football field. You can see that from these highlights. He really helped open up things for that passing game too, allowing sophomore Jaden Mitzel to have a big year. That duo is going to be back next year, and they're going to be really dangerous. Another outstanding junior on the list is Henke, the Holsteins quarterback, passed for over 2,000 yards and rushed for 500 plus. He scored 39 touchdowns. That's an average of 3.5 touchdowns per game. I can't even do that in Madden. Oh, and then there's the fact that he played defensive end too and piled up 64 tackles, with half of those being tackles for loss. What a combo. Quarterback and defensive end. He was probably all-state at both of them. That's what you call Holstein tough. Next on the list is Mr. Explosive from the state championship, Luke Furch. The senior receiver scored 6 touchdowns alone in the state championship game to help Wyndmere Lidgerwood claim the title and a perfect season. He's just a gamer, a threat to score every time he touches the ball. Of course, you saw that if you were at the Fargo Dome on November 10th. He had 26 touchdowns on the season. Absolutely great season for Luke. His quarterback was excellent as well. A lot of teams are glad they won't have to deal with this guy Wyatt Harless anymore. The senior QB passed for almost 2,000 yards, combining for 30 touchdowns running and passing. Harless was such a great decision maker. For all the times he threw, he was only intercepted on 2 occasions. The Player of the Year award goes to, I picked the Holstein, Evan Henke. He led his team to the Dakota Bowl last year, almost did it again this year with another remarkable season. What he does for his team on both sides of the ball gives him the edge, in my opinion. I mean, seriously, a quarterback that plays defensive end, that's 9-man football, baby. Henke has sacked the quarterback 6 times this season. He was named first-team All-State this year. Braden Zuroff and Brandon Schroeder were a couple of really good weapons for him. So that's a wrap for my Players of the Year. Again, West Fargo's Andy Grabdahl, Wapaton's Aaron Dykey, Hillsborough Central Valley's Grant Skager, and New Salem Glen Ullins' Evan Henke get the nod for me. It was a fun first year of covering high school football here at Midco Sports Network. A big thanks to all the coaches, players, fans, and my colleagues in the media for helping us out with our coverage. Varsity Sports Live was a blast, wasn't it? Now it's on to the winter schedule with wrestling, basketball, hockey, plenty going on over the next few months, so I better get to work. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Kelly, that's a wrap for our Players of the Year. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Jody. Well, coming up after the break, we stay on the gridiron but switch gears to the FCS ranks to preview South Dakota's first round playoff matchup with Nicholls State. You're watching Midco Sports Tonight.